asset disposal relief as it exists today, but the speculation should suggest that this will be changed significantly come the autumn budget. So acting now, starting to work on your business, getting a sense with the guys at Bellamy Wealth Management of your personal asset base in line with those life goals. What does the business asset need to do with you? If you can act quickly, if you can act effectively, if you can keep that impetus up, there is no reason why you can't enjoy the same outcome as our friends at Langstone have done. For us, that starts with a plan, and now is a really good time to start that plan for you. The E of our Thrive is about the wider market context, and what I focused on here is that ESG agenda. This is very real now and it isn't going to go away. It stands for environmental, wider social purpose, and corporate governance. I took a flick over the weekend and looked at what businesses like Google and Apple and Microsoft and all of these big organizations were saying. Their messages are all about sustainability, carbon neutral, doing the best. So how does ESG work for you? It doesn't just apply to the big corporates. You can actually leverage it. It needs to be a part of your purpose and a part of your belief. And if you can do that and do that authentically, it will help you attract customers with some sense of sustainability around your offer. It can help you reduce energy bills and utility consumptions. It will also give you access to grants and potentially other freedoms. I reckon there's something like 150 grants and modes of support available through our government, and some of them are definitely geared to carbon neutrality and our sense of purpose around the environment. The notion of freedom says that actually if you're acting in the right way and in the right ethical way, then going forward, you're probably not going to get a tap on the shoulder from some government institution asking you what you're all about and trying to put restrictions on you. That purpose then also allows you to attract and motivate talent. The generations that we work with today span 5 different types notionally, and actually they want to join a business that's got some greater sense of purpose than just delivering your product or service. It also means that we can invest with purpose, and through Bellamy they've got access to some fantastic funds and investments out there, all of which are in line with this ESG agenda. So the environmental, the social purpose, the corporate governance agenda, things like Brexit, the volatility of the pandemic, these things are with us for some time. It's basically leveraging our best version of that to see what that means for us. And another small example here, Wild Fawn, in fact, is another jewelry business. We're working directly with Emma at Wild Fawn. I've got a lovely video I can share with you where Emma talks about her business and what's been happening in the last year or so. We met Emma at Brunel University, where she was seeking to get more knowledge about how she grows her business. And now, having spent 6 months with her, we can tell you that her business, which is an ethical and sustainable jewelry business, it's built on reclaimed silver, is growing from a base of, when we started, a 600k business with sales in the UK, also in Germany and in North America. We are now building a business out with Emma that we think will be north of £2 million in value within the next 3 years. That growth has absolutely started in the pandemic. It's continued in the pandemic and is starting to accelerate. So it's her view of her purpose around sustainability and being ethical and caring about the environment. She also is working in international markets, so she's been wrestling with Brexit as well. So keep in line and keep in mind this wider market context, factor them into your business model and your business journey, and work out how best to leverage it from your standpoint. So in summary, for me, we have spelt out the Thrive agenda, the team and trust, your role as the honest leader, proactively leading and driving the business forward, making sure you're making good decisions around return on investment and enhanced cash flow, getting the right funding and right funding support, and there is much of it out there. Leveraging innovation and technology so that it works for you. Some of that might be transformational. Typically, it's just a bit of a pivot around where you are now to get a greater level of automation and use of those digital platforms that are out there. But do it with velocity, act now and keep that pace and impetus up. And don't be blind to wider market factors, ESG, Brexit, the morphing of COVID, is not going to be a straight line. All of this, of course, is predicated and starts with you, and it's about your growth mindset. Now is a brilliant time to take some perspective and think about where you want to take your life through your personal assets and then your business and your business assets. And that's the great thing that the guys at Bellamy Wealth Management can help you bring together along with us. And finally, from me then, a bit of balance. I tend to get carried away and talk positively about the market and the opportunities out there because they're real and we see them, but we should also be aware of distress and distressed businesses. Talking to an insolvency practitioner yesterday, and there is some bad and tough news to come. 4.5 million people are on furlough. They won't all be returning to jobs or the jobs they had when they left. There are thousands of winding up petitions sat there waiting for the courts to open. HMRC will need to be repaid. Bounce back and CBIL loans will need to be repaid. All of that is coming to us over the coming months. Those businesses that are set fair and have been thinking will find a path through. Others simply have failed for reasons that they couldn't control. So it's important to have that mindset. What you can't do in that context is do nothing. So please do think about your business. Hopefully today we've given you some useful tips and tools about how you may thrive. Of course, this agenda has to be specific for you. And a great place to start, again, talk to guys at Bellamy, do that survey, join the Entrepreneur Club, and let us give you some insight into your business, into the market, what a valuation might look like, and some options. You just may be surprised at the different routes you can find to move your business forward. So a closing message from me is that one on velocity. Act now, take control of the controllables and push your business on. Now is a really good time, and 2021 for many businesses is proving to be their best year ever. Thank you, Mike. I'm coming back to you.
Joining and taking the time to do this. In terms of today's event, we've got, this is the first in 5 events that we're doing. Presenters are, I'm just literally introducing the session today on behalf of Bellamy Wealth Management. Martin Brown, who's been on some of our sessions before, excellent speaker, excellent experience in the SME world, helping businesses, and particularly when you look at the world in which we're living at the moment, we felt his expertise is really helpful for our clients in terms of trying to make the most of where we are. So Martin will be our guest speaker today. In terms of upcoming events, what we've got over the next 9 months is different events which are aimed at different individuals of business owners. And again, we'll have a different speaker on each of these events that is a specialist in the area. You know, in terms of today's event, it's very much focused around, you know, the return to work. And for every business, the last 15 months have been incredibly challenging. Some businesses have thrived. Some businesses have obviously been through very difficult periods, having to shut down, use furlough. So Martin's going to talk us a little bit about some of the things that there. So looking at getting back to work in the post-COVID world, getting businesses back up and running again, looking at the business opportunities and the funding that's there. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand over to Martin as my co-host.
Very good, thank you, Mike. Good morning, everyone. Are those slides come live okay?
Yes, they're on. Thanks, Martin.
Very good. So yeah, back to work. We were just talking before the webinar started. Actually, I had the privilege of being in London on Saturday, walking myself around some of the restaurants and bars, and it was just fantastic to see people back at work and doing the things that they know and love, and a really good buzz. Still very quiet up in town, but definitely a sense of a greater return. So this morning, let's focus on back to work then and think about some tools to get you up and running again, or maybe just to give that bit of nudge or acceleration. One of the things that I will touch on today is what we're calling this wall of funding that exists out there. But let's take the time then to just have a bit of reflection if we can. If I think back to around about this time last year when COVID-19 was new to us and we really didn't know how it was going to affect us and all of our lives, we made 3 core assumptions. And that is that the market was in shock, and we saw this big plunge at that time. Markets dropped around about 5,190. You'll see a take here from 3rd of April where the FTSE was up at 5,416. Today it's trading at around 7,000. So market shock. We then looked at the FTSE and markets over time, and what we knew is that they rise. They come back. And if you look at this graph, which goes back to the early 80s, you'll see, for example, in 2008 here, the impact of the global financial crisis. So markets shock, but over time they rise. And the big speculation of that time is, what will that recovery look like? Is it a V-shaped recovery? Is it more of a J-shaped recovery? Everyone's speculating as to what the impact of COVID-19 might mean. But around these assumptions of markets shocking and rising and recovering, we came up with an agenda which says, first of all, you've got to survive as a business owner, then you've got to stabilize your business, and then importantly, you've got to push on and thrive. So if we think about the we were giving back then, actually a lot of it still holds today. And if there's one thing that you take away from this call, that will be, please contact Mike and Jason, the guys at Bellamy. Please come on to Pat and the rest of the herd at the Elephants, and let's just have a chat and talk you through it. When we went into that first lockdown last year, we thought about some headline tips and tools. First of all, creating space. So thinking about what the pandemic means for you personally and your family. A start point is to take close care of those that are closest to you. We then thought about shifting the timeline, and what we mean by that is in crisis conditions as we perceive them. Rather than think about your business in a 3-year program, think about it in rolling 90-day slots. Get your cash right, get your costs right, and roll your business on a 90-day rolling plan. Make your touch points much shorter and sharper. At that time as a business, we were running with a board meeting every single day at 8 o'clock. Some of them lasted no more than 15 minutes, but we were on it. There was a different drumbeat. So the frequency and timing of the key touch points in the business change. 90-day dynamic cash flow and a rolling plan, shorter, much more succinct touch points. Give yourself 5 days to survive, so create some urgency around that. And once you've got that sense of planning and feeling, as a leader, demonstrate the good traits that a leader would need. It comes with vulnerability, of course. Leaders can't be expecting to know everything, but it's about you being visible and being able to guide your business through. Tips, tools, and planning. Yeah, how to manage your day, how to manage your time. One of the big tools that we had coming out at that time was both a cash flow planning tool and a risk register, things that are perfectly relevant in today's market. So finally, on that reflection back to around a year ago, what else were we talking about at that time? We were talking about maintaining or preserving cash and liquidity, keeping really strong control of your costs, overly communicating, if you will, to your clients, your suppliers, your team, anyone that's in your value chain as a stakeholder. Checking whether your insurance was relevant at that time, making sure that your proposition was relevant at that time, really doing whatever it takes to keep the lights on and keep your business trading. This was us just over a year ago, but actually many of those tools and tips still hold. So again, if you want to get into that a bit further and deeper and relevant to your business, contact Mike, Jason, and let's have a chat.